Well, here we are, another Saturday morning. Yep, it's that time. It's time for the Remax Magnolia Real Estate Show with myself, Curtis Pope, and we have a new co-host this week. We have Natalie, but Natalie, I forgot to ask your last name.
It's DiPietra.
DiPietra. Pietra?
DiPietra.
DiPietra. Okay, I got
Very
it.
good.
Took me a couple attempts. Got there, because I will butcher names.
It's fair. It'll happen.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here today. And, of course, you're one of the members, of course, of Remax Magnolia. But you actually work more out of Edmonton.
I actually work in both places.
In both places, okay.
Both BC and Alberta. Well, Edmonton area.
Okay.
Yeah. Fraser Valley and Greater Edmonton area.
Well, that makes things interesting.
For sure.
A lot of time on a plane, I guess.
Oh, I'm a frequent traveler. They remember me. The stewards definitely remember me.
You don't have to actually check anymore. Like, yeah, go ahead. We know you.
Pretty much.
Okay, well, we've got you here because actually we want to chat today a little bit about Alberta, because a lot of people are moving there. They're looking at properties there because the prices can be so much cheaper there depending on where you're looking. So just maybe give us a bit of an overview of what you've noticed in your time in Alberta.
Well, I've definitely seen a lot of growth. I've lived there 2 years now. I bought a home there 2 years ago. And, I live in a quiet town just outside of Edmonton. I'm about 20 minutes from the West Edmonton Mall. And I've just noticed over the last couple of years that we're definitely seeing a lot of growth from the time I moved there. And I think we were at around 200,000 people last year that came. And so there is a very high demand for housing. I've noticed multiple offers that used to not really be a thing there, but it's becoming more and more frequent, and we don't have a lot of inventory, so there's a lot of demand that way as well. So it's definitely kind of changed in the last couple years, and I think we're just going to keep moving ahead and having a lot more growth going forward.
Now, working in BC and Alberta, do you find that a lot of people moving to Alberta are from BC?
Absolutely. A number of my deals have been from local buyers here who are wanting to move. And I've had one from Ontario. Just
because I guess prices are so much cheaper depending on where you are and what you're looking for, right?
For sure. You can buy a whole house, even a brand new house, cheaper than a townhouse in the Fraser Valley.
That's a big change.
Yeah.
Now, what about moving? What about the difference for you personally, I guess, moving from BC to Alberta? What was that like?
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if it was going to be good or not, but it actually turned out way better than I thought it would be. People there are really friendly. It's a very small town feel, and even Edmonton in the city, they're quite friendly, and you have a lot. How do I put it? People there, actually, they want to talk to you. They want to make friends with you. And you walk down the street, and people will stop and talk to you. It's really weird. Actually, our first weekend there, we met more people walking on the trails behind our house than probably a month, of being here at home. It's a totally different atmosphere. But people are really welcoming. We've really enjoyed it.
Okay, so now when it comes to houses in Alberta, if I was to want to move to, say, Edmonton, and I have a place here that's maybe worth $1.4 million, what am I getting in Edmonton for that?
1.4, well, it depends what you want. If you want a lavish estate, like an acreage, you could even, probably $1 million, 1.1, you get an amazing acreage for that. But if you're looking at, if you were looking at a regular detached home with a full basement, that you might be looking maybe 1.5 over here, you would get a lavish home for $650,000, $700,000. $700,000 is on the expensive end at that point. I have seen some homes that are now kind of creeping up to that, just in the regular subdivisions in Spruce Grove where I live. And that's a crazy price for locals. They can't believe it. And you'll get maybe a total of 3,000 square feet with a finished basement. But so you're looking at half of the cost, essentially.
So the Edmonton Oilers are all living in really lavish homes, but they aren't costing nearly as much as any other market they would play hockey in.
That's true. Well, I have seen videos of that one. No, I don't remember his name.
Connor McDavid.
That's it,
perhaps?
McDavid.
Yes.
Yeah, my friend's goat is named after McDavid.
Nice.
And so I've seen videos of his house. It's pretty fancy, but apparently a lot of them live in St. Albert too. There's this one pocket of St. Albert just north of Edmonton that they like.
All the hockey players like to live there.
Yeah, St. Albert's nice. I like it.
I mean, that's the thing. When people think of Edmonton, they if they haven't been there in a while, Edmonton's a lot bigger than they may remember it, a lot different. I haven't been there in years myself, but I know it's gone through a great expansion. I have some friends who live there, and they say it's changed a lot in their 20 years there.
It's a massive city. If you look at it, you can drive on the Henday, which basically loops around the entire city, so it's really good for commuting, but you need a GPS. I like once you actually learn it, it's fine, but you can go from one end of Edmonton to the other in maybe 30 minutes because the roads are set up pretty well, and there's traffic there, but it's not like here. But it's definitely a massive, massive city, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, because you're like you said, there's St. Albert, there's
Sherwood Park
and everything
Beaumont
else. Next thing, all the suburbs, right? So
Yeah.
it takes a while to get around.
Yeah.
And it's used to be. I'm not sure if it's still this way, but it used to be that there wasn't a whole lot going on downtown except for business. Is it still kind of like that, or is there more of a nightlife going on now, more restaurants, things like that downtown?
Oh yeah, I'm not much of a nightlife person, to be honest, but there's quite a few hot spots, and White Avenue is supposed to be a really nice area to go down to. So there's lots to do in the city if you're that kind of, if that's your thing. But with 2 kids and a husband, we don't make our way down there very often, but there's definitely, lots to do downtown. So
Kids aren't quite into clubbing yet?
not 11, no, and not at 1.
I can see how that might not be quite there yet. No. No, I mean, it's...
I won't fit in.
But it also is a place where I understand there's a lot of young families moving to because, again, it's more affordable.
For sure, yeah. Most of my clients that have made the way, they all have kids. They're, young families, or kind of maybe in their 40s, and their kids are approaching, being a teenager, and so it's a big deal when you're moving a family, especially when they're kind of preteen as well, moving from BC to Alberta, and it's a totally different life. So, but it's definitely become more of a trend and popular, and that's the majority of the people that I've talked to and dealt with. So.
Well, I have a 20-year-old son, and him and his fiancée have been talking about moving to the Edmonton area. One of the reasons that they're, attracted to it is the fact that they have money for a down payment there, which they wouldn't necessarily have here, and they can get some property, maybe have, a little hobby farm and things like that. Are you getting some young people like that looking to move?
I haven't seen, young people really in my circle, but definitely there are more people coming, and there is a demand for trades. So younger people, it would be good, like if they're electricians, plumbers, it's a good start for them because the work demand is definitely there. So I would think it would be a popular move for people his age, but I personally am just more dealt with young families. But
I imagine it would be a good start for young people because they can get into a house so much cheaper than they can here, get property, start building that equity, and then maybe move home one day.
Maybe, and if it were up to me, really, like if I lived here and we had full time, and my son was here and wanted to invest in a house and couldn't do it here, I would tell him to invest in Alberta because it's important to get your money into real estate, right? And so if it's hard for somebody to do it here and they're living here, it's better to have your money invested somewhere than not at all. And it's way easier, if you're looking at even a condo, you're looking at maybe a $200,000 price point. What can you buy here for $200,000, right? So it's a way of getting into the market and getting a step up, and eventually maybe they'd move there, or maybe they'd want to sell it, and if they're when they make a profit on it, then they can use that money here if they want it to be here, right?
And of course the other bonus there is if they move just a little out of town, an hour out of town, 2 hours out of town even, the prices come down that much more and you get a chunk of property.
For sure. Yeah.
And there's so many small towns too just outside of Edmonton, like every half an hour you're in another small town.
Yeah, well, I live in Parkland County area, or my home is in Parkland County area, and I have a friend that I sold an acreage to. They lived in a half duplex, and actually, what's crazy is that half duplex at the time was under 400,000. I believe it was 375 that it sold for. I sold them in acreage 25 minutes out of town for 425,000. They have 3 acres. They have a 2-story home, and now they have goats and chickens and
all those fun hobbies
dogs and like everything. But it's a 25-minute commute out of town. But the highway, you know, of course you might not want to drive on the highway every day, but if it's between being in town and being on an acreage, that's your dream. If you really want the extra land, to me it's worth it. And that highway is not bogged up all the time. It's just free flowing.
No, it's not like here where we don't have a highway system going right into the heart of the city, which we should have because every other major city in the world has that. Vancouver's, planning was a bit short-sighted, 50, 60 years ago, but Edmonton's got a great highway system.
They do. I mean, I hear about locals complaining about the traffic and I laugh. Because it's like, there's no traffic. 20 minutes in traffic is nothing. My longest commute from Spruce Grove into Edmonton, I'd say, was 35 minutes to work. Whereas when I'm working here and, from Cloverdale is where I've been living. So, to drive there to Chilliwack, like you're looking at over an hour. And just this morning I was driving in, I'm like, oh, okay, well, here we are, stopped on the freeway at 11 o'clock in the morning already, right? So it's very different. Like, you don't experience the traffic at all.
It's the aggravation of a drive that, can be 45 minutes that can take 2 hours or more. Yeah. My dad lives in Richmond, and sometimes I'll drive in, I'll hit everything right, and I can be there in under an hour.
Yeah.
Then other times it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason to it half the time.
I know. It's crazy. And my husband, when we lived in Chilliwack, he used to drive from Chilliwack into Langley to work. And sometimes he'd get there in 40 minutes, and then other times it'd be 2 hours that he would take to get home.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we should probably take a quick break. Obviously, if people want more information about you and your listings and things like that, they can probably go to remaxmagnoliarealty.com, I suppose.
Yeah, and you can also check out my YouTube channel, Natalie DiPietra, Real Estate. And also my Instagram is nataliedipietra.realtor. And I do have a Natalie DiPietra Real Estate page on Facebook, too.
Perfect. We're back with more right after this.